We want to welcome everyone to the 359th meeting of the Baltimore Regional Transportation Board. This meeting is being recorded, so if anyone online should experience difficulties during the meeting, please send a message in the chat box. In addition, this morning, I'm going to ask that all BRTB members turn on their cameras during the roll call for attendance and for voting. We ask you to do this so that the public is clear about our BRTB membership. So with cameras on, I'm going to ask Rebecca to start the roll call to determine member participation. Rebecca?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Annapolis?
Good morning, Chris Kubiak's here.
Good morning, thank you.
Thank you.
Anne Arundel County? Baltimore City?
Here.
Good morning, thank you. Baltimore County?
Here.
Thank you. Carroll County?
Here.
Harford County? Howard County?
Here.
Thank you. Queen Anne's County?
Here.
MDOT?
I'm here.
Thank you. RTA of Central Maryland? MDOT MTA?
Here.
Thank you. Maryland Department of Environment? Maryland Department of Planning?
Yeah.
Thank you. FHWA?
Here.
Thank you. Did I miss anyone? Thanks so much.
Thank you, members. Thank you, Rebecca. So our first item is the approval of the minutes from the September and the October BRTB meetings. Has everyone had a chance to review these minutes? And if so, can I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes?
Motion to approve from Howard.
Can I get a second?
Queen Anne's County will second the motion.
Howard, motion to approve. Queen Anne, second. Are there any edits from the members? Hearing none, we'll now take a vote on the approval of the minutes. When your name is read, could you please indicate A or nay, please? Rebecca, can you call the roll?
Annapolis?
Aye.
Anne Arundel County? Baltimore City?
Aye.
Baltimore County?
Oh, aye.
Carroll County?
Aye.
Harford County? Howard County?
Aye.
Queen Anne's County?
Aye.
MDOT?
Aye.
RTA of Central Maryland? Thanks.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. The next item on the agenda is our public participation opportunity, where we offer the public a chance to speak to the board. If anyone has comments on any of the action items, please wait for that item to be discussed. If there is anyone who wishes to address the board at this time, please indicate so in the chat box. Todd, can you indicate if anybody wishes to address the board?
Madam Chair, no one requested to speak prior to the meeting. And currently there is no one requesting to speak in the chat box.
Okay, sounds good. With that, we'll move on to the next item on the agenda, which is the report on public comments. We now ask for the report on public involvement activity from Ms. Monica Haynes.
Good morning.
Good morning, Monica.
Good morning. in front of you, you should have a copy of the public involvement report for the month. And thank you. So currently we have one opportunity for the public to comment. We have a comment period on the Patapsco Regional Greenway. That Greenway is a project that we've been working on for several years now, since 2017. It's a 40-mile trail running through the Patapsco Valley from the Inner Harbor to Sykesville in Carroll County. And that greenway is going to be used by bicyclists, walkers, runners, and in some places wheelchair users, as well as equestrian riders. So over 12 miles of the greenway has already been completed, and we are working now on a new segment. It's about a 5.5 miles segment of the trail from Guinness Open Gate Brewery to the Southwest Area Park in Baltimore County. And so earlier in the year, we listened to public input about where the trail should go. And so now we've got a proposed alignment, and we are looking to get public feedback on that alignment and what would make a really great trail in that area. So we are accepting comments on that through December 5th. We've got a project website at publicinput.com/PRG. And on that webpage, you'll see information about the alignment. We've got a really great interactive story map that explains everything about it. And we are accepting comments by text, email, voicemail, and you can drop comments on the project website. You can see what other folks have said. So those comments are welcome through December 5th, which is next week. And we definitely hope to hear from folks on that project. Coming up next year, we're going to have a very busy year with a lot of different activities. We've got some really exciting projects, including a vision for a regional bicycle network. We're going to be doing another section of the Patapsco Regional Greenway for the Stony Run segment. We have a project on fares, fees, and fines that looks at some equity issues. We will also have a comment period and a review by the federal certification team. So that will be another opportunity for the public to weigh in and comment on the transportation process in the region. We definitely look forward to public engagement on that. And then we just wanted to share with you one of our members, the MTA, is seeking public comments on goals for the MARC train service. So they're currently updating the vision and goals for the MARC train system so that it meets the needs of all Marylanders. And they're currently doing a survey to help shape the future of MARC train service. So if you're interested, anyone who's interested can take a survey. Online, we've got a link in this document we can share with folks. But MTA, if you go to the MTA website, they have a link to information on their survey, which is also available in Spanish. And then just wanted to let folks know we have an e-newsletter called Be More Involved, and it's a monthly e-newsletter, and it features articles about how the public can be engaged in opportunities such as those for the BRTB and MTA and other of our project members. So if you're interested in signing up, there's a link to our project portal, which shows all of our current engagement opportunities. And if you're interested, you can sign up for once a month newsletter from us about all the different ways to be involved. And also for any board members that are looking to get the word out about any of their activities, if you have announcements about comment periods on different plans and projects you're doing locally, please just let me know and I would be happy to include it. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Monica. We'll I know from Baltimore County, we'll have our communication team email the Be More Out link as well, so that we can have more of our residents sign up for the portal. So I'll pass that along on this end and ask the other members to pass it along to their staff as well. All right, the next thing on the agenda is the report from the technical committee. We'll ask Mr. Dan Jensen to please present the report. Dan, are you? Let me see.
Hi, DeAndre. Yeah, thank
Okay,
you.
there you go. Hey.
All right. Yeah, good morning, everyone. The technical committee met on November 7th. I'll just go over a few of the highlights from that meeting. We made a recommendation on recommended action on resolution 24-7, which is before the board. Baltimore City presented 3 new projects that are coming before the board today. The Southeast Baltimore Freight Corridor, the Wilkins Avenue Bridge over Gwynn Falls, and the Baltimore City Greenway Trail Eastern segment. After the presentation, the technical committee voted to send that resolution to the BRTB. Excuse me. We also had a presentation on critical urban freight corridors. Mr. Youngman Choi from MDOT-SHA presented an update on the critical urban and critical rural freight corridor mileage designations. The National Highway Freight Network allows for allocating federal funds and policies toward highway segments that are crucial to freight movement. The Baltimore region currently has 25 critical urban freight corridors and 8 critical rural freight corridors miles. The IIJA, the new infrastructure bill, increased the state's cap to 150 critical urban freight corridor miles and 300 critical rural freight corridor miles, which will allow the Baltimore region share to increase to 50 miles. MDOT-SHA has provided sufficient information for staff and the technical committee to determine which segments to recommend to the BRTB for an additional 25 miles. So that'll be coming back to the board in 2024, early 2024. We had some UPWP updates, the Unified Planning Work Program for the region. A report on the status of transportation and land use connection grants was made. BMC discussed the 2 original awards, which were to Baltimore City for Wabash Avenue and to Annapolis, City of Annapolis for Bay Ridge Avenue. BMC then presented on round 2 of the Transportation Land Use Connections Competitive Grant Program. The TLC program supports local governments in their planning and preliminary design efforts to provide short-term technical assistance for regional land use transportation priorities at the community level. All local jurisdictions that are voting members of the BRTB are eligible to apply for this funding. Interagency and interjurisdictional partnerships are encouraged, and applications must provide documentation of local support and must include features of locally approved plans. We also had a discussion on the UPWP addendum, the schedule for the addendum. The key date is agreement on topics for study by the end of 2023 and a budget by mid-January. Draft addendum will be shared on the technical committee meeting on February 7th with a request to release for a 30-day public comment period. The technical committee reviewed 8 new topics for discussion and identified 3 topics that would repeat in FY 2025. Several key points were covered for each area. Following the meeting, members received a survey to provide topics that are most interest to them. And finally, we began the meeting on November 7th with a closed session, and we provided an overview of the proposed microtransit request for proposal. This task is in direct support of the Baltimore region lots, as well as MDOT MTA. Microtransit services are shared transportation services that sit between traditional fixed route transit and ride hailing services. So the technical committee heard about the scope and deliverables and then approved the task to move forward. So some of these items will be coming back to the board, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Dan, do you know when the TLC regional land use applications are due?
I'll turn that over to Todd.
Yeah, Madam Chair and board members, we are readying the application process and we'll be announcing it to the technical committee either at the December meeting or the January for the application process.
Okay, perfect. All right, so now we'll move on to the action items. Todd, please introduce the first action item we have today.
Certainly, a lot of buttons. Hold on one second.
Mhm.
Okay. Madam Chair and Board, today the BRTB is being asked to consider Resolution 24-7 to approve one resolution involving a request from Baltimore City to amend the 2024 to 2027 Transportation Improvement Program for 3 projects. We're going to turn over to Ms. Regina Harris, who will introduce the resolution. Regina?
Good morning. How everybody is doing well. So this morning, these 3 TIP amendments have been considered by the interagency consultation group and have been deemed not exempt from the conformity determination. 2 projects are returning to the TIP that had been on hold, and the 3rd one is new. So there's 2 presenters from the city. We're going to start with Mr. Scott Weaver.
Good morning. The
Morning.
first project is the burning highway bridge over Colgate Creek. It's a $20 million project located in the southeastern portion of Baltimore, immediately adjacent to the Port of Baltimore. We've worked in close partnership with the Port of Baltimore. The project received a Tiger grant that the city of Baltimore pursued. It provided a great deal of funding for the project. Unfortunately, the Tiger grant has expired, and there is a gap of funding, so we need to include this project in our TIP so that we can allocate our federal funds to fill in that gap of funding for the project. 50-year-old bridge. It was in poor condition. The bridge is a main connection point between the Port of Baltimore and I-95. If you leave the Port of Baltimore and you make a left turn at that light, it's a straight shot straight to 95, and you can get to and from I-95. It's the quickest, most direct route to this major interstate connecting Florida to New York. So, our port being able to connect to that highway is crucial. This bridge is a vital link to that port. Next slide, please. Like I said, about the Tiger grant that provided the $10 million funding. Low bidder was Alan Myers. The project is under construction right now. They're almost halfway finished. So, like I said, the addition of this onto the TIP is just to fill in that gap of funding of approximately $2 to $3 million. As you can see, the notice to proceed, the project started in 2018. We've had a few delays, mostly from the contractor working from the water. We worked with the contractor, so they would use a trestle system. We've had a few pile driving issues using what they call pipe piles. It's like driving a steel tube into the earth. And we've had some issues with obstructions, and some of the piles have been ruptured. They've hit objects and it's kind of punctured that tube. But we are moving along at a steady progress, and we're looking to be complete by 2025. Mr. Greg Bauer is my project manager for the job. Any information, this is his phone number and his email address. Next project is Wilkins Avenue. It's located in Southwest Baltimore. It actually Wilkins Avenue once it joins into the city, it helps to become US. It kind of connects with Washington Boulevard, servicing Route 1. It's located not far down the street from St. Agnes Hospital, which is actually where I was born. But it's a vital link in the community there, and the bridge has seen better days. It's quite old. It's been under design for replacement, but we'd advertised the project, but bids came in very, very high. Next slide, please. Like I said, as you can see, the bridge is old. It's in poor condition. We've received a few letters of concern. Next slide, please. As you can see, the design was completed. We did advertise the job. The original engineer's estimate was for approximately $10 million, but the lowest bid that we received from Allen Myers was $13.3 million. Obviously, it's 33% over the bid, over the engineer's estimate. So we had the engineer go back and look at current bid prices, methods of construction, to update our estimate and figure out where that missed number is, so we can properly allocate for it. We've done that. We'd like to advertise the project, but we can't move forward with the project until we re-add it to the tip, because once we added it, it dropped off the tip. So this is just a matter of adding it back to the tip so that we can re-advertise the job for construction. This is the information about the bids. Obviously, we received the bids. They were over. We rejected the bids, and we're going to re-advertise. Mr. Chris Brown, or I'm sorry, Mr. Muhammad Al-Salihi is my project manager for the job. This is his phone number and his email address if anybody has any questions, or I'm available for any questions on these two projects if anyone has them. The Greenway project was not under the bridge section, so I'll turn it over to our representative to discuss this project.
Yeah, I'll pick up from there. My name is Nick Shupin. I'm the Greenway Trails Planner for the City of Baltimore Department of Planning. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit today about the Greenway Trails Network, and specifically the section we're calling the Eastern segment. The City of Baltimore is seeking to amend the 2024-27 TIP to add the Eastern segment of the Greenway Trail. This project was awarded a federal earmark in the December 22 Omnibus Appropriations Bill in the amount of $2.5 million. There's also a 2022 Maryland State Capital Grant in the state budget for $1.5 million to be used for the Greenway Trail writ large, which we are sort of intending to use those funds towards the acquisition of this right away. The project must be on the tip to satisfy the NEPA process, which is currently underway. And I wanted to please note that this budget is for acquisition only. Additional funding will be required to fully fund the design, engineering, and construction of the trail, but we need to get the acquisition out of the way first before we get to that step. Next slide, please. Baltimore Greenway Trails Network is a vision for a 35-mile world-class network of urban trails that will link together the diverse neighborhoods, cultural amenities, and outdoor resources across Baltimore. Trail Network will transform the public realm by providing equitable, healthy, low-stress access to open space and reliable transportation and recreation for people of all ages and abilities. Only 10 miles are needed to link up the major existing sections, which are the Gwynns Falls Trails, the Jones Falls Trail, the Waterfront Promenade, and the Herring Run Trail. The segment in question, if you click ahead here, it'll show. The segment in question, which we're calling the Eastern segment, is a 1.8-mile continuous linear right-of-way, which was formerly used for the Pennsylvania Railroad and is currently owned by Norfolk Southern. Its extents are approximately Federal Street in the north and a bit above O'Donnell Street in the south. This segment is made up of several parcels that the city is seeking to acquire for this purpose. This would allow for unhindered separated travel between these points with minimal conflicts with automobile traffic. Next slide, please. Outlined here briefly are some of the social benefits of the Greenway Trails, including promoting healthy behaviors like walking, running, and cycling, equitable access to green space and transportation. Critically, 27% of households in the city of Baltimore do not have access to a car, so this provides another opportunity for safe travel across the city, especially for vulnerable populations such as seniors, children, and disabled individuals. Next slide, please. In 2020, Ernst & Young completed an economic benefits study on the Greenway Trail as a whole and determined that the $28 million estimated investment would return over $113 million in associated local business activity, reduce vehicle miles traveled by up to 8.6 million miles per year, avoid $2.4 million annually in health costs due to accidents, and provide environmental air quality benefits that would equal the removal of 550 to 750 cars per year from the roads. Focusing a little bit on this segment that we're talking about here on the eastern side of Baltimore, the project scope for this particular amendment is to acquire the property for this trail from Norfolk Southern. The image here shows the primary parcels that we're targeting, which includes a linear right-of-way, kind of moving from south to north from O'Donnell Street. It goes over Eastern Avenue on a bridge, under Lombard Street, over Pulaski Highway on another bridge. There's a short segment of on-street separated shared use path on Haven Street near Monument. And then it goes back off-street on these two parcels at the top, number 3 and 4. And from there, it would connect to another in-development trail segment that follows the BGE utility right away up to Herring Run Park to the northeast. This slide here is sort of just a conceptual right-of-way rendering cross-section for possible trail dimensions and amenities that would be built to accompany the trail that create destinations and points of interest along the way to promote activity and use. This is our rough timeline. It's optimistic, but it's a complex project with a lot of stakeholders and facets. So the potential intersection with the red line is not the least of those concerns. But like I said, optimistically, we want to complete the NEPA process and negotiations with Norfolk Southern by spring and start the engineering process thereafter, which we expect to be completed in early 2025, and then aiming for construction of the major elements by the end of 2026. And that's what I have on Greenway Trails. My contact information is here. Thanks for your time. I'm happy to take any questions if you have any.
All right, thank you, Regina and Scott and Nick for those presentations. I now ask a member to move for approval of the resolution in a second. Bruce, you want to go to the questions first, Bruce, before we move for approval of the resolution?
Whichever way you want to do, Madam Chair.
All right, let's do the questions first. Any questions from the members first?
Just clarification on the Tiger grant. So it's expired where all the funds expended for Colgate?
To the maximum amount we were. It was $10 million was the Tiger grant. We were able to spend 8, which is why there's the gap of approximately $2 million.
And not able to spend the $2 million because didn't have work completed yet to spend it, or?
Yes, we obviously can't bill for work that has not been done yet, and with the delays due to the constructability and the pile driving issues we've had, it kind of delayed it to the point where we just could not get physically, we were not able to perform the work in order to bill for it.
So that $2 million is coming out of the city's federal bridge allocation then?
That's correct.
Unfortunate. Thanks.
Unfortunately, yes, it is.
Any other questions from the members? So we'll stay with the questions. Does any member of the public have any questions or comments on the resolution? Do you see anything in the chat, Todd?
Madam Chair, currently there is no one with a question in the chat box.
Okay, no questions from the members, no other questions from the public. So I'll now ask a member to move for approval of the resolution in a second.
Anne Arundel County moves to approve.
Can I get a second?
Annapolis seconds that motion.
Thank you. Anne Arundel County approves for the approval and Annapolis second. For those online, please indicate if you
I think we've
no.
already
So
gone.
now
to that
we'll take a
question.
vote.
Yeah.
Todd, we'll take a vote. Regina, can you call the roll for us, please? And as a reminder, members, can you turn on your cameras when she calls the vote? Thank you so much.
I can take care of the vote if you'd like. This is Rebecca.
Okay, thank you.
Annapolis,
Aye.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
Baltimore City,
Aye.
Baltimore County,
Aye.
Carroll County,
Aye.
Harford County,
Aye.
Howard County,
Aye.
Anne Arundel County,
Aye.
I'm sorry.
Queen Anne's
Anne's
County.
My
Aye.
apologies. I'm sorry about that.
Yep.
Thank you.
MDOT's aye.
Thank you so much. RTA of Central Maryland,
Aye.
thank you so much. Bye.
Thank you, Rebecca. The resolution has passed. We'll go to the next item, please, Todd.
Thank you, Madam Chair and board members. Today, BMC staff are going to update the BRTB on several upcoming Unified Planning Work Program tasks. Presenting today will be Sean Kimberly on the Post-Pandemic Trends Project. Then we'll turn it over to Don Halligan, who's going to talk about the Fares, Fees, and Fines Project. And finally, Charlene Mingus is going to update us on the Regional Bicycle Vision. So please start off with Sean Kimberly. Sean?
Yes, good morning. My name is Sean Kimberly. I work here at BMC, and I'm here to talk with you this morning about the UPWP Consultant Task Post-Pandemic Trends in Employment, Commercial Real Estate, Housing Location Choice, and Travel Demand. Next slide, please. As I'm sure you recall, the COVID-19 pandemic hit the country and our region in early 2020, and the impacts of it and the associated public health measures were felt almost immediately. A few of those effects are noted here. In the chart on the upper left, you can see that employment levels declined. In the early stages of the pandemic, employment in the region dropped by 175,000 jobs, or 13.1% between February and April. While employment levels have improved markedly since the early stages of the pandemic, the region has not fully recovered to pre-pandemic levels. In the chart on the right, you can see that work from home adoption increased considerably. According to the Census Bureau's American Community Survey between 2010 and 2019 in the Baltimore region, the rate of work from home increased from 3.9% to 5.6%. Then in 2020, after the pandemic hit, the rate increased dramatically to 19.9%, then to 22.2%, and then down slightly to 18.1%. And the ACS figures underestimate total work from home, as it only includes persons that work from home most of the time, thus missing a large segment of hybrid workers that work from home less than half the time. And on the lower left, you can see that transit ridership declined. Monthly MTA ridership had a pandemic level low of 2.8 million riders in April of 2020. And while transit ridership has increased since then and was at a level of nearly 5 million in March of this year, it has not recovered to the February 2020 level of 7.5 million in ridership. Next slide, please. So the pandemic caused or accelerated changes to how and where people work, with major effects upon workers, employment centers, and travel patterns. And the purpose of this project is to identify and quantify what these changes are and to project and explain their potential longer-term implications. The project results can then be used by local planners to inform land use assumptions, which would in turn affect cooperative forecasts and travel demand modeling efforts. In terms of process, the consultant approach will include surveys of regional workers and employers focusing on work arrangements, travel choices, and hybrid and remote work policies, a literature review, trend analyses, and interviews with subject matter experts. The consultant selected for the project was AECOM Technical Services with WBA Research, a Maryland-based DBE firm, serving as a subcontractor, and they will be performing much of the survey work. Next slide, please. The project is split into 3 phases, and the first phase of the project will be the employee and employer surveys. For the employee survey, responses will be collected from workers from an assortment of industries engaged in a range of occupations, capturing basic worker demographics, home and work locations, and day-of-the-week flexibility. Information about the commute will also be captured, such as the mode, travel time, and time of departure. Respondents will also be asked about pre-pandemic travel patterns in order to get a handle on what has changed. The employer survey will collect information on current and planned flexible work arrangements and policies from employers from a diverse selection of regional industries. Also captured will be information on existing and planned space utilization needs to provide an understanding of changes in response to hybrid work, such as the wider adoption of shared space or office hoteling that may lead to a reduction in the office footprint for some employers. The second phase of the project is on future trends, employment demographics, commercial real estate, and housing location choice. This task will build upon the findings from the survey work and was largely suggested by the membership of the Cooperative Forecasting Group. At the time of the CFG's development of their Round 10 forecast from mid-2020 through early 2022, there was much instability and uncertainty about the economy. Part of the idea behind this project is to provide information and guidance that was unavailable to them at the time that they were working on Round 10. This phase is divided into 3 tasks as outlined here. Starting with task 1, work from home. For work from home adoption, we are looking at current and projected rates, as well as full remote versus hybrid split, and where these rates may settle in the longer term. Development of a range of regional forecasts. Given the uncertainty of the time during which the CFG developed their most recent forecasts, consultant guidance is requested here to provide a potential low, mid, and high range of forecasts at the regional level through 2025, or excuse me, 55. Employment by industry. While the pandemic affected employment levels in all industry sectors in the Baltimore region, the direction and scale of change was not uniform. We would like to learn more about the projected changes to industry mix. Labor force participation rates dropped precipitously with the onset of the pandemic. We would like the consultant to project labor force participation rates for our region and counties and explain observed differences between Maryland and the nation. For the second task of phase 2, the consultant will document and analyze pre-pandemic and post-pandemic trends in commercial real estate with a focus on office and retail markets, office space trends. Here, we are asking the consultant to quantify the changes in office space utilization and occupancy in the region and its submarkets since the onset of the pandemic. We are also asking them to provide an assessment of the future demand potential for office space as remote work and hybrid work from home models adjust to a post-pandemic environment. Retail. The consultant will analyze trends in the supply, occupancy, and location of retail space across the region, while considering the ongoing shift between brick and mortar and e-commerce, as well as the relationship between office space utilization and demand for supportive retail services. And the consultant will provide an assessment of the future demand potential for retail space as markets adjust to a post-pandemic environment. And future of downtowns or employment centers. The consultant is also charged with describing how recent and projected changes in work from home adoption and office and retail space utilization might affect downtowns and employment centers in our region. Given the trends identified in this project, how does the consultant envision the future of downtown locations? And if downtowns and employment centers must adapt to large-scale changes in demand for daytime office employment, what are some suggestions for the potential reinvention or reinvigoration of downtown spaces? And task 3, changes in home location choice. For those that can work from home, the reduction in frequency of work commute may lead some to consider living further from their traditional work location. Utilizing the results from phase 1 of the project, analysis of recent county level migration patterns, and interviews with local real estate experts, the consultant will address the potential impact of work from home adoption upon home location choice. And phase 3 is the final report and presentation. Upon completion of all tasks, the consultant will develop a cohesive and comprehensive final report. The report will tie together the written reports from phase 1 and phase 2 and describe the findings, implications, and recommendations. Consultant presentations of the findings to the BRTB, Technical Committee, and Cooperative Forecasting Group are expected. Next slide, please. Project schedule. So the kickoff meeting for this project was held with the AECOM team and BMC staff 2 weeks ago on Tuesday, November 14th. And the project schedule is reflected in the Gantt chart seen here. As you can see, work on phase 1 of the project, the survey piece has begun, and phase 1 is expected to be complete by May of 2024. Phase 2 of the project is anticipated to begin in April 2024. While much of phase 2 relies upon the output from the survey portion of phase 1, it is expected that some work will be able to overlap a bit. All analysis is expected to be complete in October of 2024, with final products and presentations expected to be delivered in the subsequent 2 months, projected to wrap up by the end of the calendar year. And that's it. I'm happy to answer any questions if anyone has any of those.
Thanks. If we could move on through all three of the projects, and then we'll
Sure.
take questions at the end. Can we move to Don Halligan with the next project, please?
Sure. Good morning. Don Halligan, BMC staff. I'm here to present on the evaluation of the fares, fees, and fines for undue burdens task that was in the 2023 UPWP. Next slide, please. So on behalf of the BRTB, the BMC staff sought proposals from qualified respondents with experience working with state and local jurisdictions to assess the impacts of transportation fees, fines, and fares on low-income individuals and vulnerable populations in the region. The project will assess the impacts of fines, fares, and fees on low-income individuals and vulnerable populations, summarize the transportation revenue sources in the region and how they're distributed within the transportation system, to the extent to which those they contribute, the fines, fees, and fares contribute to the transportation system, identify and evaluate strategies that could alleviate the disproportionate financial burdens on lower income individuals from these costs, understand the trade-offs between affordability strategies, ensuring the transportation system generates sufficient revenue, including from users, to sufficiently meet the needs of the system and operators and owners, and recommend policy changes and reduce inequitable financial impacts experienced by these populations. The fees, fines, and fares examined may include motor vehicle registration, fuel tax, tolling, public transit fares, parking fees, traffic and parking violations, and fines, and rideshare fees. We asked the respondents to our RFP to propose how they might consider these and identify other fees and fines and fares that might be more feasible or rewarding to examine in more detail. Next slide. We had a review team who selected WSP as lead consultant with Foursquare as a subcontractor. The NTP is pending. We have a kickoff meeting to be scheduled. We'd like your support with that. Because the project is focused on revenues, the information collected will be from agency stakeholders who have, and we need folks who have in-depth direct knowledge of how the fees and fines are collected, what is collected, and the methods in which they're collected and distributed in the region. An initial stakeholder meeting must be arranged to identify the transportation fares, fees, and fines collected in the region, and the consultant team will explain the data needs, which will be great, and discuss high-level trends across the various fees, fines, and fares. They will be following up with the agencies to identify these collection policies and methods and distribution and expenditure in greater detail. We're seeking your help in identifying appropriate staff to engage because of the nature of this effort. Next slide. Here's our schedule. It's a 10-month schedule. This particular one here is bit dated, started in September 23, ends in June. We'll have a literature review in the middle, examination of data in the beginning, and public outreach throughout. That's all I had this morning. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer.
Thank you. And if we can turn to Charlene for our third project before we take questions.
You so much. See. Thank you for having me today. I'm Charlene Negus, the Active Transportation Planner at BMC, and I'm presenting today on the vision for a regional bike network. The bicycle network in the Baltimore region continues to grow each year, attracting recreational visitors and assisting in transportation trips by bicycle. The Baltimore region has over 300 miles of shared use paths and over 200 miles of bicycle lanes. And these numbers continue to increase annually as local jurisdictions, BMC, and MDOT SHA work to realize the design and construction of planned bicycle and shared use facilities. However, the disconnected nature of the region's bicycle and shared use facilities limits their use for daily transportation and restricts access for sections of the region. As shown in the MDOT SHA's recent LTS analysis, about a third of roadways in each jurisdiction are classified as low stress, or as high stress, excuse me. We recognize the impact of high stress bicycling facilities and disconnected networks can have on travel patterns and bicycle demand. So for that reason, we are conducting this project. The focus of the project is to develop a vision for a regional bike network using the bike network and shared use facilities that improve regional connectivity, safety, and mobility by increasing access to jobs and other daily activities and providing transportation and recreational opportunities for people of all ages and abilities. This will include BMC will lead the effort in collaboration with member jurisdictions, including the City of Annapolis, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore City, Baltimore County, Carroll County, Harford County, Howard County, and Queen Anne's County, excuse me. So first for task one, Alta Planning and Design was selected by the proposal review team to lead the project. The project will begin with preparation of a project management plan and stakeholder engagement plan, also coordination for the stakeholder committee and advisory committees, including meetings at key points throughout the project. For task two, kicking off the project will be on-site handlebar interviews held at various locations throughout the region to collect first-person narratives, which will be used to promote the project and communicate needs as part of the final plan. The project team will also collaborate with the steering committee and advisory committee and the public to develop the vision, goals, and objectives for the regional bike network. And next on task three, Alta will use the regional bicycle facilities inventory to complete a review of positional and classification accuracy. And at this point, we want to thank our local members for their collaboration in updating the regional bicycle facility inventory annually. Without your guys' collaboration, this wouldn't be possible. During this task, the project team will also work with the steering and advisory committees and the public to develop criteria to identify the bicycle and shared use facilities that could be part of the regional bike network. So next on task four, this is one of the most important tasks for us with this project, which is public outreach. So it'll ground the project with authentic public input from a diverse mix of stakeholders with the objective to incorporate engagement activities and inform, consult, involve, empower, and collaborate with the public. These public engagement opportunities will occur throughout the project and will include both in-person and virtual options. Also, to facilitate additional input and participation in all corners of the region, a public meeting in a box will be developed that local members and partners can use to solicit additional feedback beyond the project team hosted events. Public engagement will also include story map with narratives, which will include interactive maps and surveys. 10 in-person public meetings will be held throughout the region with a virtual option for those who cannot attend, and that'll focus on the vision, goals, and objectives. Additionally, an in-person and virtual public forum will be held later in the project, which will include presenters and facilitated discussion, as well as opportunities for public feedback, more focus on the proposed regional bike network. And also, the project team will work closely with the steering and advisory committees throughout the project. So first, the project will conduct a current conditions analysis, which will include a plan and policy review, mode share analysis, safety analysis, bicycle demand analysis, and an equity summary. This is at around this point, the previously mentioned 10 in-person public meetings and virtual meeting will occur during the task and will focus on gathering public input on missing or misidentified existing facilities, identification of areas of concern and opportunity, and input on proposed project vision, goals, and objectives, as well as the criteria to identify the regional bike network. So next on task 3, the project team will use the existing and planned bicycle facilities and low stress facilities to develop a regional bike network. This will include a network implementation strategy, including the identification and mapping of 3 different buckets. So the first one would be priority gaps. So that would be projects that can be open for travel or funded for scoping or construction within 5 years. Intermediate network expansion opportunities. These are strategic opportunities to expand the regional bike network, but they typically need additional study or planning to determine feasibility, cost, schedule, and these projects can be funded, for planning, scoping, construction within 10 years. And then the last one are the long-range network expansion opportunities. So these have long-range potential to be completed in the long term or more than 10 years based on estimates. This section will also include the implementation of the network will also be conducted by evaluation of the impact of the 3 timeline scenarios against the vision and goals. So we can see what would happen as the network gets built out, how it would impact those various elements. Finally, with task 7, the project will take all the previous tasks, bring it together and develop a well-organized and visually compelling plan. Along with the previously mentioned tasks, it will include cost estimates for network implementation strategies and recommendations, a benefit analysis, identification of performance measures, as well as materials to assist with communication about the vision for the regional bike network once the project concludes, including customized one-page handouts and presentations focused on the regional level and for each jurisdiction. The project is kicking off very soon, so early December, and is estimated to take approximately 18 months to complete. Thank you. I appreciate it. I guess this is the time for questions, or leave that up to Todd.
Thank you, Charlene. We'll go back to the beginning, and we have all 3 of our presenters and project managers available in case there are any questions. I'll turn it back to the chair.
Does any of the members have any questions on any of the 3 presentations? So, Todd, I do have a question for Don. Don, you mentioned that you needed some assistance some support from BRTB. Are you just asking for us to make sure we have staff available when you all come out for the outreach, or can you talk about?
We hope to have a steering committee that would meet periodically throughout the project and provide advice, kind of over the shoulder advice to the consultant team. And I wouldn't expect that to mean that they have to be on call all the time, but they would be kind of a point person for the local jurisdictions if there are questions about any revenue sources there.
Okay. And then, Sean, I had one question for you in terms of the projections that you mentioned through 2055. Is that correct?
Yes.
You're doing projections all the way out through 2055 in this?
Yeah. So I like one of the ideas behind this project was to provide the cooperative forecasting group with some assistance they didn't have when they did round 10. Round 10, the timeline, the horizon year was 2050. And so I wanted to give them, this regional level consultant forecast out to 2055, because this coming year, the group is considering when they're going to update round 10. And when they do, they may need to extend it to year 2055.
Okay. Any other questions from the members? Thank you, Sean.
Sure.
A question for Sean.
Sure.
Hi, Sean. I was wondering if your analysis is going to deal with some of the kind of underlying trends that are ongoing that have probably have coincided with the pandemic, that might affect transit, travel, ridership. Maybe the dispersion of population out of urban areas, Baltimore City, especially over the past decade, maybe possibly even growing household income. Perhaps that has created a mode shift away from transit, and just the adoption of ride sharing and its impacts on transit ridership. And all those things, and probably many more, coincide with this health crisis we've gone through. And I wondered if this study is going to kind of pull those apart and really examine them and then project continuations in those trends in the future.
Well, I think that the focus of the project is going to be largely on the changes brought on by the shifts in work arrangements across the region, and what that means to all, to transit, to office space utilization, and to home location choice. While what you're talking about is certainly part of some of the change, I'm not sure that the consultant is going to be expected to break out the percent and the different causes and their different contributions to the change.
These are all factors that will distribute kind of market demand for housing and employment locations and office space as well.
Yeah, I think that what you're talking about will be included. I'm not sure, though, that they'll be able to call out and differentiate. Half of this was because of work from home arrangements, 40% was because of this, and 10% was because of that. I think that they'll, that will all be considered, but I'm not sure that that the different shares and contribution will be separated.
Thanks, Sean.
Sure.
Thank you. Do we have any other questions?
Yes, Andrew. Sean, I have a question. No, not question, actually. You might be aware that the State Center in Baltimore City, in President Street, a lot of employees will move to downtown. I'm sure that your survey, or you have a plan to talk to DGS to find out more information and their timelines and moving.
Yes, I'm sure that that's a big move, and that's something that will be specifically mentioned to the consultant for their consideration.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Thanks for bringing that up.
All right, anyone else? All right, great presentations. Thank you all so much. So we'll move to the last agenda on the item. Last item on the agenda, any open business. Is there any other business to come before the BRTB board this morning?
Madam Chair, this is Todd Lang. I would like to inject one item, if that's okay.
Sure.
Okay. On behalf of the BRTB, we do have a couple of questions for Maryland Department of Transportation. At our most recent meeting in October, Secretary Wiedefeld did indicate that the BRTB members would get a chance to review and discuss the revised fiscally constrained CTP prior to it being submitted to the General Assembly. We wanted to see if we can get an update to the timing of the release and how MDOT's planning to engage with members on these revisions. Wanted to see if our MDOT members might be able to chime in.
Hey, awesome question, Todd. We have not finalized when and how, but we are in the process of thinking through how to get out a potential solution. Obviously, the Secretary has been talking about the $2.1 billion deficit we had when we put the draft CTP out. We just, before Thanksgiving, finished up all of our tour meetings. So we're in the process of sifting through everything that we heard at our county and Baltimore City meetings, and we're trying to figure out a solution. It is not easy. There are a lot of moving parts, but we do plan on coming out with something for people to react to. It will be a lot more than just the MPOs. We'll be going out to the general public. We'll be going out to all of our stakeholders with information and be able to hear back in time to make any kind of final changes. If you're unaware, the CTP, our budget is part of the governor's budget. So it must be submitted with the governor's budget that third week in January, which this year is January 17th. So we have a lot of work between now and then to finalize that and get our information into the governor's budget as well. So that's an additional constraint, but we will be coming out with information that people can hopefully easily absorb and react to on kind of what's going on. I preface that the secretary has been very open that that deficit does not include additional funding for some of the things that we want to do as an administration and have committed to in certain areas. Things like the Frederick Douglass Tunnel funding was not in the draft CTP. There's just a lot more with the Amtrak announcement this past week that we are partnering with them for our MARC system. So there's just, as I said to begin with, a lot of moving parts, but we hope to have something finalized very shortly so there's enough time for people to react before we have to finalize things.
Okay, thank you. One other bookkeeping item. There was a recent report to the General Assembly that indicated that back in fiscal year 21, there was $110 million flex funding of STBG funds to MTA for the Purple Line. And also it indicated that the new draft CTP, just like you mentioned, also includes plans for $150 million in flex funding from Federal Highway to FTA, along with the normal CMAQ flexing of about $45 million. We wanted to see if we might be able to get some documentation on that we could share with the members, and any future transfers get documentation just to make sure that urban sub-allocation targets are still being met. Would that be possible?
Certainly anything in the Baltimore region would be more than happy to include you on. There's basically two steps to any of these. One is the plan and the budget for it, which is what we put in the draft CTP. Then there is a physical transfer that needs to be made from Federal Highway to FTA. And that is done through a memo that I send to Federal Highway. So I can certainly CC you on those when they get sent to Federal Highway to then have FTA. I will tell you that the one nice thing with all of the IIJA and the encouragement from the federal level is that process has been sped up quite a bit. It used to take months to get through Federal Highway and FTA to get on the books for MTA to be able to utilize. They have done a lot at a national level to speed that up. So it is now days, if not a week or two before those transfers are made. So we do not ask for that money until we're ready to do the grant at FTA.
Great. Thank you very much, Heather. And thank you, Madam Chair, for the time.
Thank you, Todd. Are there any other questions that need to come before BRTB this morning? All right, hearing none, I will then call for a vote to close the meeting. All in favor, say aye.
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 Great. Okay, the next meeting of the BRTB will be held virtually on December 19th. We look forward to seeing you all. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.